What's up, guys? Bobby, NK Performance and Racing here. I want to talk about the Camshaft Challenge a little bit. First off, hats off to Eric Weingarter Racing. He did an absolutely amazing job of making sure the test was as fair and there was the least amount of variables as possible. I mean, everything even down to making sure that the engine temp and the oil temp were the same for every single cam tested. The timing for the engines was not changed between camshafts. Carburetor jetting wasn't changed, and I think it turned out great. He got all 23 camshafts done in 3 days, which is astonishing, and hopefully he does another one soon. I wanted to go over my thought process a little bit on picking this camshaft. So I've done obviously a lot of LS stuff, a lot of domestic V8 stuff, of course, in general, but I did a lot of testing too on a 6-liter with LS3 heads and a Holley split intake and a few different intake manifolds we tested on it. But I did a lot of testing on a 6-liter. I actually tested 18 or 22 camshafts right down the street here in Pinellas Park at Muscle Machining on their engine dyno. And I tested a solid 18 plus camshafts in that engine, and I started seeing trends, of course. Now, this is a 408 cubic inch engine. It had a lot more compression than the 6-liter I was dealing with, and had a lot better cylinder head too. The 6-liter had a stock LS3 head on it, nothing done to it. Now, going into this thing, I'll admit, I was first thinking about it, I was a little on the large side. I was looking at making something. It turned out to be a lot like what GPI made, and that's where I was originally thinking about going, in that direction. Camming it like I would as if it was going in my car, right? As if I was going to put that in my car. The thing is, if I was going to put it in my car, I wouldn't be cutting it off at 7,000 RPM. I mean, it's got enough induction package to go 7,500 all day long. So I would have cammed it like that. Now, being the way it's graded, right, average torque and average horsepower are a key role here, and of course peak power and peak torque. But to tell you the honest truth, I went for good torque, good peak torque, but really I was going after the averages, and things just worked out. I think the engine was very happy with that camshaft in it, and turned out to make the highest peak power too. So the numbers are all published. I'll put them in here as well. I'll put the dyno sheet in here for our camshaft. Here was my thought process, right? I knew with the induction, and he gave us everything we needed. I mean, he gave us more than enough information. We had the cross-section at the port opening. We had the cross-section at the plenum, if I do remember right. We had the throat size. We had everything, really. Valve diameter, of course. We knew what the cylinder heads flowed, knew how much compression the engine was, what size carburetor it was. So I knew with the induction package on this thing that I can probably get it to peak around 66 to 6,700-ish is where I was thinking it would have peaked for horsepower, with a IVC of like 44.5, which is where I ended up. And as far as IVO goes, maybe I could have been a little bit earlier on it. I don't think it would have made much difference. And honestly, I could have been a little bit later on the IVO, and it probably wouldn't have made much difference. But I knew for sure the first thing I picked was IVC, and I wanted it 44.5. Obviously, once the cam is grounded, it could be within a degree, which it was. It was actually 43.7 is where it ended up. And did it help or hurt? Who knows? It's 1 degree. It's hard to really gauge off of that. But what I really relied on was the exhaust to do the job of making great peak power and holding on to power long, right? Because if I was shy on exhaust duration, we know what would have happened after seeing the tests. So in the testing I've done with the 6-liter, the later we went with EVC, the more it responded everywhere. It would pick up power everywhere, and truthfully, we got to the point where we could have went later, and it probably would have picked up more power with that deal, but it ran out of piston and valve clearance. So going into this knowing that, I got pretty wild with it. You know, it was 18 degrees EVC. So that was a big factor, I think, in what held power and why it made such great averages, right? Because it had the early IVC to take care of the low speed torque, and it had enough induction package to still peak at 6,700 RPM, which we realized. And I think the exhaust valve close event and the early exhaust valve open event is what carried the power, and I think it's what won us the competition. So I hope everybody learned a little bit from this. I know I learned a lot. You know, nobody knows everything, but I definitely learned a lot, and there was a lot of good camshafts tested in it. And I think it does show you that when something has enough cylinder head and enough intake manifold to go past the RPM you're spinning it to, that you can be pretty small with the camshaft, and it'll do a lot for you because the cylinder head is doing the work. You know, you could be pretty early on IVC and pretty small on intake duration, and it'll still get the job done because it's got enough intake manifold and valve diameter to get you there. And of course, you know, cross section. But I'm extremely happy with the results, and I will put the camshaft on my website. It's nkpracing.com. I'm going to put the camshaft on there. No, you know, I'm not going to jack up the price or anything like that. It'll be the same price as everything else on my website. So if you want to buy it, you have the option. It's a great camshaft. It does really good in a 400 inch. I'd say 400 to 427 cubic inch LS with a similar intake and cylinder head. It'll do great from 4,000 to 7,000. I don't think there's anything out there that'll do better. But actually, you know what? I take that back, because after this test and seeing what it did, I think I probably could have made it better. I think I probably would have went a little bit later with the EVC, but hey, maybe we'll test that in the future. I do want to clear one thing up, and this is something that I did see some people commenting about. I own NK Performance and Racing. I'm part owner of it. My business partner is Nate. He Dr. Tune 'em All, you may know him from YouTube. He does a lot of tuning, and he's got some race cars of his own as well. So I'm owner of NK Performance and Racing. I do work at Cammotion as well. I've been at Cammotion for 6 years, and I've seen some people commenting, you know, he had insider information, right? Because Cammotion, of course, grounds some cams for some of the other competitors in this competition. If you go back and watch Eric's videos, you will see I actually sent my camshaft was the third camshaft to arrive to him, and it was the first camshaft ground by Cammotion to arrive to him. I didn't even know the other competitors were entering until my camshaft was already there. And I know you were able to switch out your camshaft. I think the rules were like up into 2 weeks before the competition. Anytime before that, you were able to switch out the camshaft. And yes, I could have, right? But I was actually on the phone with Eric because he was asking me some questions. He had a piston to valve clearance question, and my camshaft having one of the latest EVCs, he was worried about it for piston to valve clearance, and he figured, hey, if his will clear, then the rest of the competitors will. And he asked me the valve lift at top dead center on the exhaust side. So I gave him that so he can compute and see how much piston to valve clearance he ended up with. But when we were on the phone, we started talking and whatnot, and I even admitted to him, I said, look, I'm worried, I try to do everything so good because there's 4 data points, and I'm trying to do all 4 of them so good that I'm almost worried I'm going to do all 4 of them just okay, and that's just part of it. But he told me that, you could switch out your camshaft anytime up to 2 weeks before the competition, and at that point, other people had got their camshafts from Cammotion, so I knew what the specs were on them. And I even told him that I didn't feel like it was fair to send in another camshaft. Not that I necessarily wanted to, but I didn't feel like it was fair to send in another camshaft because I do work at Cammotion. I do know what the other people's camshafts were, and I didn't want people to feel like I'm gonna, Price is Right them. Like, oh, he sent in a a 234. I'm gonna send in a 235, something like that. I didn't want people to feel like that, so I stuck to my guns. It was the first camshaft I sent in, and I think it was the third camshaft to arrive to Eric. So that's just my little rant. I don't YouTube. Honestly, I feel like an idiot talking into a phone. I need to get better at this kind of stuff when it comes to YouTubing and whatnot. I just I don't do it very often, so I'm a little bit shy on camera. I'll let you know that. So thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't checked out the Camshaft Challenge, you got to check out Eric Weingarter Racing. I mean, hats off to him and everybody over there that made this happen, because I don't think we've seen testing like this, and this many different things tested with this small of deviation and variables. I mean, it was really good. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention before I get off of here. Look, I do design lobes at Cammotion. I could have went exotic with it, but truthfully, I wanted to use something that I feel comfortable selling to the general public, right? And I use it's a basic XA lobe, and it's what you get from Cammotion when you buy a camshaft. It's a hydraulic roller, you know, for an LS or an LT 55 millimeter. It's the standard stuff, right? It's nothing special at all. They go 100,000 plus miles, no problem at all. It's been done over and over again. So I used that, and that may have worked to my advantage. You know, it may have been happiest like that. Definitely could have got more radical with the lobe, but I didn't. Let's see what else I wanted to touch on. I think that's about it. I'm pretty confident, even with that heavy valve that engine had. It was a very heavy intake valve. It was a solid stainless intake valve, 2165 diameter. I do believe that, sorry, my phone almost just died. I do believe that my camshaft would work no problem with a 660 spring. Your typical off-the-shelf BTR 660 or PAC 660 spring, it's gonna work. I mean, that lobe is gentle. So, no hero lobe, you know, like people were saying, it's gotta have some kind of hero lobe on it. I think everything just worked together happily, and it's what the engine wanted. So, thank you guys for watching. If you got any questions, you could always email me. My website is nkperformanceandracing.com. You can contact me off of that, or leave a comment on here. I'm open to answer any questions. So, that's about it. I did not bribe him. I did not pay him more on the side. I didn't cheat. I didn't use any formulas. You know, I didn't use any software to pick the right camshaft. I don't really believe in any of that stuff. I just always used knowledge based off of previous stuff I've done, you know, and comparing to previous setups that I've done camshafts for and seeing what they did. So there was no LSA formulas. There was no softwares or desktop dynos or any of that stuff done. It's just I picked the valve events I wanted, and this is where the specs ended up, and that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.